All right, I think we're good to start.
Welcome, everyone. No mai haere mai, kia ora. Welcome to our meeting this evening of the Cambridge Community Board on 16th of June 2026. It's lovely to have you here. If you're watching online, thank you for joining us. I think we'll start our evening with a karakia. Ahakoa no whaia tātou, ahakoa o tātou ara huhua, ka hoi ngā tahi tātou I te waka kotahi, kia puawai, ai ngā hua pai mō taone o te oko horoi. Ka maumahara ki te hanga kua mate, mā tātou anō o e whakarite I te huarahi, hei oranga mō a tātou tamariki. Wherever we come from, whatever our backgrounds, we work together as one for great outcomes for Cambridge. We respect those who have gone before us and seek to enhance the future for our children. Thank you. Right, we'll start our meeting with a few formalities. Doesn't look like we've got any apologies this evening. Disclosure of members' interests. Any new conflicts? Okay, great. And that takes us into our public forum. So we have our guest this evening, Barbara Campbell from the Cambridge Autumn Festival. Welcome, come up to the desk there, Barbara. When you're ready, you can just flick your microphone on and just have it nice and close to you so that people online can also hear. And we'd love to hear from you. Take it away.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Campbell and I'm a trustee of the Cambridge Autumn Festival Trust. We wanted to give you an update on this year's festival and to let you know that planning is well in hand for next year's program and making applications for funding. We had a very successful 2-week event that started on 20th of March this year. Unfortunately, Cyclone Vaianu and the fuel crisis occurred after the festival. The festival celebrates the town's creativity, diversity and heritage with dozens of events, including concerts, art exhibitions, street theatre, literature competitions and hands-on workshops. Attendance across the festival is close to 10,000 people. We provide free, koha or $25 concert tickets, and it's important to us as we always have this front of mind when we do our planning to make the events affordable and enjoyable. Carnival Day is always a great success and very popular, with over 4,000 people coming to watch the live performances, visit the art market and generally enjoy being in the centre of Cambridge. This year we allocated $1,000 and provided a new kids zone on Empire Street. Our date for next year's festival is 12 to 21 March. We identified a date clash for our Carnival Day with the Māori Cup Parade on the 4th of March, so we have decided to move our Carnival Day to the 21st of March to accommodate this. Also, our chairman, John Drummond, he was a chair or involved with the rowing competition, so that's quite helpful. He identified that and was able to sort the collaboration out on that. We have had a very interesting offer by the Cambridge Museum for an event for next year that they want to put on in conjunction with our festival. Cambridge Repertory, for the first time in many years, will be running a show at the same time as our festival next year, and a local writers group has put forward a play to be put on. The council events team were very helpful this year, and we've worked much more closely with them and will continue to do so, and we value their expertise. We were very grateful for the $3,000 grant from the District Promotion Fund and hope that this will continue, since we are a hallmark event, to quote Infometrics. Reliability of funding is key to successful annual events, and we work hard to match our funding requests with funders' criteria. And as you know, there are less funds to go around and over-subscription of requests. We have a dedicated and hard-working group of trustees, and last year John Drummond became our chairperson, following Alana Mackay stepping down on maternity leave. We have a new trustee called Karen Johnson, and she organised the Rocky Horror Show this year with Tivoli Cinemas, plus a cake decorating competition and best outfit, which was really successful. We hope to find an event next year to bring Achievement House into our festival, and we'll be working along with that. That's it. Thank you. And Ray Milner, I see he was on the list to speak, and I think he was probably going to ask about street furniture repairs in town because he's one of our volunteers and he's not here. But that was just something that we noticed, the tops of the rubbish bins and the park benches and things could do with a bit of a spruce up. But that's what I think Ray was going to be speaking about because he noticed it when he was on duty. But thank
Well,
you
that's
very
great. Thank you, because it is a shame that that Ray isn't here.
Yeah,
at the
something
moment.
must have
So it's good to have some context around
Yes,
what he wanted to chat.
Yes, he was
to us
making a
about.
list and
He's making a list. Okay.
council separately. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Would anyone like to ask Barbara a question about the festival? Sure.
Just a comment, and I think it's a festival. I think it's probably the very best time of year for Cambridge. And it really is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think, that being a constant is something. So I know you people work very hard. I think just keep on working
Yeah,
and keeping to those dates and sort of making sure that it's a regular event because
yeah,
I know people who went to some of the events and both paid and just sort of free. Yeah, just keep up good work. It's great.
thank you. It is rewarding, and we're noticing the collaboration with the high schools. They're expecting, they know when Cambridge Can Dance is on, so then they're getting their students all lined up. We've got the high school with their Kapahaka group. They came for the first time 2025, and then they came again this year. That's a huge thing, which we've not had like Ngāti Kokore before. So that's important for us, and we're just seeing those developments, and also St Peter's and the high school, and then we've been bringing in kindergarten and schools and the retirement villages and letting them know what's on, and so we've got that whole age range. But and we like to think we're open to putting on things, and people let us know ideas of what they would like, and we just consider what will be successful and what's well matched for the program and make it to a really good quality level. Yeah, so thank you.
And to me, this is sort of a model that, quite honestly, I'd really love the council to get behind because it is you folks that are making it happen, and anything that we can do, I think operationally to support you, I'd be well behind.
Thanks, Andrew.
Do you have any goals to grow the event or not? And was funding a restriction for you or a problem this year?
Not so much grow because we can't put many more events on because we have a program that we pay for that we give out free, and there's a limit to that, and our volunteers. So I guess it's just keeping on increasing the quality that we've got, and then funding's a big thing, but we've been liaising with Creative Waikato and been to their funding workshops, so we're trying to make sure that the ones that we've regularly had funding from, that we meet their criteria and continue to, there's new things like being diverse and inclusive and cultural groups and things like that. That's why I'd like to have Achievement House included. So that kind of challenges us to keep being relevant and looking for new avenues of events or people that we can connect with. Yeah, so funding is a big thing, but we're reasonably effective and we've worked really hard at looking locally to individuals as well. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much. I concur with that. It is an amazing event.
Oh, thank you.
And, the town takes a lot of pride in it.
Yeah.
So thank you
I
for,
think
and to the
that,
other volunteers for
actually,
everything you do. Yeah.
it's important to us and we do feel that. So that is a good feeling, and we know the council support us, and it's good all round. So pretty solid. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or we'll leave it up to you, okay? All right. Well, the next item on our agenda was the deputation from our Māori Ward councillor, but she's having a few technical issues, so we'll just move on to our minutes of the previous meeting. So we have a recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board confirms the minutes of the meeting held on 12th of May 2026, which was the discretionary fund meeting, and then the subsequent regular meeting on the 19th of May 2026 as circulated with the agenda as true and correct record of proceedings. Okay. Yeah, great. Andrew and Pip. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Put down Maria. All right. Yeah, okay. So we'll move on to our update on the managed fill resource consent application at 3831 Cambridge Road. And welcome, Wendy. We've got you here to present your report. So when you're ready, we'll let you take over.
Kia ora, and thank you very much for having me back. I feel like a regular attendance here at the moment. So the update this month is about the managed fill application, which is the resource consent application for the what's called a class 3 landfill and managed fill there within the quarry site, so effectively filling in the quarry with appropriate materials and then remediating the land afterwards. The application, if anyone has any questions, I can go further into the detail of what the application is, but just to note that the application is currently being limited notified. A decision was made to not meet the threshold for public notification, but to meet the threshold for limited notification, and that includes to specific neighbouring and nearby property owners occupiers, as well as Waikato Tainui, Ngāti Koriki Kahukura, Ngāti Haua and Ngorokawa. This notification has happened at the same time as Waikato Regional Council applications for the same activity. These obviously were discharges to land, air, water, earthworks in a high risk erosion area, water diversion and take. So we do officially have one submission being made. This application is being notified until the 29th of June, I believe. So we have one submission already that is an objection wishing to be heard, which therefore means the next steps will be a joint hearing with the Regional Council. So I'm open to any questions.
I understand the decision being made to be limited notified. However, given the proximity of the township to the site and the impact, for example, we found, there was a fire there and therefore there was impact on the town and a far wider area. Can you give us a reasoning why we went through limited notification as opposed to broader? Because I would have thought that the community is very concerned about this facility and they're not having an opportunity to have a formal hearsay.
Absolutely. So the threshold so it's split effectively into public notification being adverse effects on the environment, limited notification being adverse effects on people, or adverse on persons. So therefore the test for the adverse effects on the environment has to be a more than minor effect. They can be minor effects, but to publicly notify it has to be more than minor, and that's as per the RMA. So for the environment, the effects, so beyond those neighbouring properties, the effects from contamination, from dust, noise and vibration, impacts on infrastructure, so that's regarding like the roading network, impacts, it also, no, actually that's roading, sorry. Impacts also on character and amenity. To reach that threshold is really tricky. So for example, dust is we had a technical dust report that Regional Council specialists actually provide that we both utilise. It was able to define the effect of dust as being from a minor effect only up until about 300 and something meters beyond the activity. So it is very, very specific. The landscape architect was able to view it from that was probably the other key one, from the public area and, well over on this side of town. And it just doesn't meet the threshold in terms of the effects that we have to achieve for public notification. Concerns from the community and those known voices and threshold of that voice, it can't come into it. So knowing that there's complainants about similar activities or what's happening on site, unfortunately, isn't a trigger.
Yeah, one would have thought that was probably a matter of opinion rather than, fact, but you're saying that it's fact?
Correct. It's part of the RMA. It sets out what can and can't be, and it's effectively a way of ensuring NIMBYism can't be coming into what is and isn't an effect on the environment.
But NIMBYism does come into effect by way of limited notification because you're talking about, neighbours.
Yep. So even at that notification level, the limited notification level, if there was no dust technical report stating that there could be an effect, because we knew, we're very grateful that there was that report, because if we obviously knew that there's a community there that are concerned about activities on that site, but that isn't a reason to notify. So there has to be an effect that is able to be documented as being a minor or more level. So here the threshold for that, though, the effects on those persons is at a minor level, not a more than minor.
Just one question before I sort of hand over to other people. There's sort of there is real concern of enforcement in the event that it does get able to be carried on. What can the community do to ensure that enforcement happens in a manner that, because it would appear we've got lots of wet bus tickets being handed around for breaking of consent rules. What are we going to do if we want to make sure that the consents are actually adhered to and not just sort of going, oh, well, that's what happens?
I mean, a slightly tricky one for me to answer. Obviously, that's not my role within council. One thing I can obviously comment on is ensuring that consent conditions are enforceable, that are easy to understand and easy to constrain within sites. Another thing to note is that a recent change to the Resource Management Act allow the decision process, so Section 104 process of the final stage, to consider the enforcement and compliance history of a site, and that isn't restricted to the organisation's compliance and enforcement history.
So was there a full environmental impact report? Because I requested that and I haven't received that.
I believe you're working with Quentin on providing the information. So environmental impact assessments aren't part of New Zealand legislation. So we have assessment of environmental effects. So I believe the question was asking what part you're asking for, if there was something specific, but I'm sure Quentin can provide the
I've got
application
just
material.
So this is about 800 meters from Waikato River. There are no testing holes that's not in the RMA. Then you're talking a lot of metals because it's self-managed on what is going in there. A lot of metals, we've got all this hydrocarbons, treated timber residue, concrete leachates, all those things are going to be compacted, right? So because this will affect, water quality will affect the whole Bainbridge. So how's that going to be contained?
So what you're asking for is the process managed by Waikato Regional Council and the resource consent applications that they are processing, which is a wide range. So discharges to land, air and water. So that's where they're looking at specifically protecting the awa and any impact on there. So I'm sure Quentin can work with you on that, but it's noting that they would have the technical documents in that area that you've specifically mentioned.
And then also on the, about, I think it's 15 years ago, I'm under correction here, there was a study done on long-tail bats, and there were long-tail bats around the Waikato River. Has that been a study been done on that, do you know?
I haven't seen mention of bats within this application, no.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Oh, sorry, Andrew. No, you go.
There's been some concern from residents and people at this table about the number of truck movements through Cambridge and Leamington. Could you just help me understand where are the trucks coming from with the fill? Is it from within the Cambridge urban environment or more widespread? The numbers there equate to 13 truck and trailer loads per day. And, there's quite a few residents who are a bit upset about that trucking along into Leamington by Cambridge Park there.
Can't answer that specifically, no. The application, I don't recall the detail, sorry, of them confirming whether or not they do make comment of whether the trucks come from far or wide. I'm not certain, sorry. But I can certainly feed that back to you. And
Probably, 13 units of stuff coming in, so there's 13 trucks also leaving empty, which has been a concern with empty trucks rattling along the street too. So it's something to be worried about. And just for my information, is this an ex-sand quarry site that they're refilling? Yeah, that's okay. So reinstating sort of what was there.
one thing to mention that I did forget to add verbally is obviously I'm not here in the capacity that I said I would be last month, and that is regarding an update on the other activities on that site, and we just didn't have the material in time to come to you, but we do have a commitment to return. Unfortunately, with July out, it now means August, so apologies, but we do remain committed to keep coming back.
Could I just ask one more question? What do the discussions with Wakatoa Tainui, Ngāti Hoa, and Ngāti Kuriki Kahukura look like in this process?
So essentially, we don't know if there is or isn't an effect there, but we don't have the information to confirm there isn't a minor effect on those groups. And so notification was sent through to them. I meet with a couple of those groups quite regularly anyway, so have been discussing that with them. Obviously, we would expect an application like this to have some form of response and feedback, and it wasn't part, so they were notification was sent to them.
Just for clarity, so this is a process that's going to carry on for around 20 years, am I right? Probably longer?
Possibly longer, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
actually, yeah.
So this quarry is going to be filled with whatever level 3 stuff. So you just mentioned that dust isn't going to be a problem, but if it goes, so at this stage, because it's a trough like that, you get little sand, you can see it, little sand troughs going up, which is a problem at the moment for neighbours. So when it gets filled up further and further, has any studies been done to say that the fuller it gets, there still won't be any dust contamination?
So I haven't read the dust report, and that might be something worth asking to see, to have a look for yourself at that detail. My understanding is obviously that they have processes to fill and then not just leave be, to fill and manage how that looks and is contained as they go, but I can't speak to the detail, sorry.
So the two sites are next to each other, am I right? Like the one that's currently and then the new application.
So essentially, if it's people can't see me. So essentially, it's all within the same site. So they've cut the quarry into 4, and will move around. The last stage to fill in being where the demolition and construction recycling plant is at the moment.
So is there any safeguards in place to prevent the current site not putting that material in the, is there any like camera footage, anything like that will prevent that?
So
That would be an easy thing to do.
So that would be part of a resource consent condition package to be looking at that. And just to be clear, so irrelevant of any recommendation from the planner as to what an outcome would be. Obviously, it'll be decided by a hearings panel, but irrelevant of the recommendation that planner would make, a package of conditions, if it were to be approved, will be prepared either way. And part of that would be looking at those matters exactly, because we do have the information that what from the demolition and construction waste, if that fits into a class 3 definition, it can go onto this site. So managing that would be something to be mindful of.
Who's deciding that? Because at this stage, it's pretty much self-managed. So Pip made a very valid point. You can put a million conditions around there, but there should be some management.
So I'm not quite sure how to answer that further than council obviously has a requirement to put conditions on that are enforceable and easy to be understood and managed. And then the requirement obviously to follow compliance processes if there are issues.
So last question.
Sort of, there is obviously Waikato District Council, Waikato Regional Council on will this hearing be heard A by an independent commissioner, and B, will it be a joint hearing whereby they will be requesting resource consents from both Waipā District Council and the Waikato Regional Council. So yeah, so I'm really interested because the reality is the sort of the dividing line between what's us and what's regional council, you know, to an issue which is pretty dear to a lot of people's hearts in this town. We just got to make sure that the process is fair, reasonable, and completely independent.
So no decision has been made about who would form part of that panel, but we have agreed with the regional council that it would be a joint hearing. For example, dust, it's very hard for myself, let alone a member of the community who submits to differentiate between what the regional council look at and versus what Waipā District Council look at. So yes, a joint hearing looking at the activities as a whole and the condition, the consent applications as a whole.
Sorry, will the council be submitting as a submitter?
No, so because it's a limited notification, it's just for the adjoining and neighbouring properties. Although, actually, I note, sorry, I note further that we obviously have notified council because it's the wastewater treatment plant is the adjoining property. So I'm not sure as to what happens, and I keep out of that as the next step.
Yeah, I mean, on the basis that the district council is looking after the interests of the community, and if the community are concerned, how do they get their concerns heard? Because they're not allowed to make their concerns heard because they aren't allowed to submit.
So I guess if I can't necessarily comment because I am the regulator in this instance, but my view would be that obviously this is a limited notification process to the adjoining property based on very specific effects on that property, as opposed to a notification to the council and the community as part of a public notification process. So there may be a view that that's a different process and approach, but I would be separate to any submission process. I'm getting frowns. I guess, no, actually, I'm going to step back. I'm the regulator, so I will step back.
Does just not get covered because, you know, it sort of falls in between lots of stools?
No, I think the effects on the wider public in the environment have been considered by the planner and regional council planner also, and deemed to be a no more than minor effect, and therefore public notification hasn't occurred.
Can I ask a question? And it's going to sound rude, so I do apologize. I've been called blunt before, so I do apologize. But are we going with the 25 properties that's affected? Is this a tick box exercise, or are you really going to listen to the submissions? And it's an honest question.
No, that's fair. No, absolutely. So it's not a tick box exercise. Obviously, the hearing won't be council delegated staff, so that takes it to a level of independence. Obviously, we haven't made a decision whether or not that would include So for example, if it's a 3-person panel, Waikato Regional Council put forward 1 hearing panel member. They have an agreement so Waikato River Authority can put forward 1 hearing panel member, and then Waipa would put forward a 3rd, for example. And even if that was to be an elected member, that's still a level of independence in terms of that position from council staff. And so submissions are taken very seriously, absolutely. Not many applications are notified, and it's having worked in the UK where every application is notified and it feels a lot like a tick box exercise, that's not the case here.
Thanks, Wendy. So you've had to answer some difficult questions, so appreciate that. Yeah. Right, we do have a recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Wendy Robinson, Manager District Planning and Growth, titled Update on Manageville Resource Consent Application at 3831 Cambridge Road. Could I have a mover, please? Yeah, Chris, and seconder? Yeah, great, thanks. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Now we'll go back to our agenda point. We've got our deputation by Māori Ward Councillor Dale-Marie Morgan. Kia ora, Dale-Marie. Dale-Marie is joining us online and has been waiting patiently. So when you're ready, you can present your report. Thank you.
Ngā mihi nui kia koutou, te puari, te oko horoi. Greetings to the Community Board. I've sent it out via Charlotte and the governance team today. I think you guys got it in your inbox about 5:30 this morning. So I'm not too sure if it's been distributed to everyone today. There is a special mention in there tonight in regards to the members that attended the Pohara Pokai on Sunday. There was 2,000 people there that day. There was Tim McIndoe and Mike Pettit stood and addressed the crowds about the amalgamation, Head Start and Backstop, and we've got Axel presenting currently at our community board here to our public and to our members around the Head Start. Second to that, I just would like to make mention to the King's birthday announcements of Waipa, Dame Susan Hassel, of Cambridge, Dr. Luxington, and Brian Marcroft of Ohopo, who received honours this year. On my He Manu Kōrero karere, you will see the link to the entire list. But I'd also just lastly like to give a mihi to all the staff who are under incredible pressure at the moment with the organisational restructure, now with the uncertainty of amalgamation. Just a big ups to them going through all of it, and also wishing all of those staff that have completed their service with us at Waipa and who are going on to other places. Those other places are very lucky to receive the people that that Waipa have had. So, and just lastly, for those that were asking about the previous item that Wendy was talking to, I can tell you consistently in regards to Waikato Tainui and your question, Charlotte, the failures immediately to the RMA in regards to iwi would be failure to adequately assess environmental effects under Section 104, 1A, significant risk to groundwater air contamination contrary to Section 5, Section 6 and Section 7, inability to meet discharge thresholds under Section 107 due to uncertainty and risk, failure to take into account treaty principles under Section 8. So, yeah, just for anybody who'd like to know, that's where iwi's stance is. But I'll also mention iwi are the most under the pump at the moment. They are the most reformed. They are the most that have to respond, and they are not on our clock. So if we don't hear back from them, I understand why we don't. So yeah, just a perspective, because I'm also elected at Waikato Tainui. So yeah, any questions, whānau, tonight?
Oh, we really appreciate that, Dale-Marie, especially your last comments. I think that there were actually some questions here. Did you have a question? Oh, you don't? No? Okay. I think everyone's pretty, heard your message pretty loud and clear.
True.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it at that then, and
Awesome.
really appreciate you joining us this evening as always.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'll pop back to my community board meeting.
Kia ora, Dale. Thank you. All right, so we have a recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board receives the verbal presentation from Māori Ward Councillor Dale Marie Morgan. Could I have a mover? Yeah, great, and seconder. Thank you. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Right, so we'll move on to our Cambridge Connections update, and we have Evelisa here this evening. Thank you for joining us. We always love to hear about Cambridge Connections. Yeah. Oh, welcome. Yeah, when you're ready, ladies, you can take us through your report.
So, kia ora tātou, ko Evelisa Wright, tōku ingoa. I'm Evelisa Wright, the Group Manager Service Delivery for Waipa District Council. I am here filling the seat for Katie Mays, who is unable to be here tonight. And so in terms, and I have Rachel here with me in case there are any technical questions, but to support. So in regards to the Cambridge Connections update, which is we're recommending just to receive the report today, but I'd just like to just run through just a summary before I'll ask for questions. So this report is following your last community board meeting and workshop that was held just prior to the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee on the 3rd of June, where the report was presented regarding the transport options. So alongside myself presenting the report with Brian Hudson, we also had the Cambridge Community Board Chair, Charlotte Fitzpatrick, at the table. And I'd also like to acknowledge having the co-chairs of the Community Reference Group of Phil Mackay and Peter Carr also at the table, who were actively involved with Mana Whenua representatives being part of the Community Reference Group. So following the approval of the network options that you see in the report today, we're progressing to the next stage, which is stage 3, which is heading into the technical stage of the Cambridge community, the Cambridge Connections project, which is detailed in page 21 and 24 of Diligent in more detail in terms of the next stages. But I'd just like to raise, and through the Community Reference Group chairs and also through Chair Charlotte, they did raise the importance of continuing the community engagement and information so that it doesn't stop just because we've moved into a next stage of the project. And that was raised as a really important stage, and staff have taken that on board and noted, and so we will continue to update as we gather the information required at this stage. In the report, I'd also like to note the truck movements in and around Cambridge following the community feedback, which I guess were raised in the previous report. And so those have been acknowledged and noted in terms of needing to be monitored. They're, as the report states, the impact of heavy vehicles on residential streets is recognised as an important issue. And it's going to be considered through the Cambridge Connections project, particularly around defining the future roles and functions of the strategic transport network as we develop the plan. We're going to do that in an evidence-based way with data, and so our team are collecting data to be able to inform that, not just your traditional tubes that count a car crossing. So we're utilising the technology that's out there today, such as the e-roads data. So there's multiple areas that are collecting the data. So that data and information will be forming the Cambridge Connections information that will come through our elected members and be available on the website so that everybody can see that as it comes through and through the community boards in future meetings. So, and in that summary, I'll take the report as read. And any questions, and I apologies if I can't answer them, I'll try my best, but I will definitely take them away. Or if I can invite, if I can, through the chair, through Mike Montgomery, who was also leading and chair of the committee.
Cool. Yeah, we've got the report. So any questions? No. Oh, one question.
Yeah, congratulations on the council, the staff reaching this milestone. You know, it's been a big project and it kind of looks like it's over halfway maybe, but it's getting to the critical end coming up, but just good work so far. I'd just like to say that. You've made some announcements since the 3rd of June meeting about approved network options for bridge sort of locations. I'm just wondering what's the feedback been so far to council about that? Have you received any general feedback that is worth sharing with the community?
So at this point, staff haven't really, but I'm just like in terms of Mike's put his hand up in terms of some feedback.
I think it probably is just worth clarifying this point. The Midwest Bridge option, it references a road connecting Matos Segedin Drive to Cambridge Road. That caused a little bit of confusion because that means Cambridge Hamilton Road, not Cambridge Te Awamutu Road. I'll stick my hand up. I missed that as a possible interpretation. We certainly didn't mean that. So as soon as that got brought to my attention, I clarified with staff and went back to the people who thought that. But it's worth stating here that that means Cambridge Hamilton Road. And yeah.
And so I think we've taken a good point away from that to be very clear in terms of the details, so that that's almost a lesson learnt, because sometimes the roads can span across multiple districts and locations, east-west boundaries, and so it's actually being really clear on those specific locations. So we've definitely taken that away, and it's something that has, so thank you to those that picked it up and at this early stage too, and so that we can make sure that that's rectified from now onwards.
I just received some feedback of interest that you did choose in one location to be quite specific with named roads, and the other three were very broad. Just what was your thinking about how that was, you know, why did you be specific with one option but not specific with three others?
Yeah, I'll probably have to take that one back and respond about that in terms of the details of that. I think some of the zones were obviously in town was quite a broad zone and incorporated, you know, the broader zone of the bridges within the town as well as on the west side of the town. So some zones were larger than others, but we'd have to respond back in terms of on that one.
Yeah, but what I can say, there was no specificity. It was more just in terms of locality, just so that people knew where the Midwest was because of the broadness of it. So just and take the point with the streets being located, which was talked about, but it was definitely not meant to be like to a dedicated area. So
just for the communication and the work going forward, so there'll be a lull through July and back into it more in August. Would that be right? In terms of elected members and consultation with public.
I wouldn't, there's a lull, so it wouldn't be the same workshopping, reference grouping, because the technical work really needs to progress now. And as that information is being developed, we don't want it to be a lull as it turns into a void of no information, because I think it's really important to keep that momentum up, and that's something I know that Katie will want to do, but it's to the point of the information we can provide, and a lot of that will still be through the Cambridge Community Board, the Community Reference Group, through elected members and through the website. But there is a lull in meetings and workshops during this period of time.
So do you have a question?
Having spent a little bit of time up at the markets on a Saturday morning, we've had the opportunity to talk to different people regarding the Cambridge connections, and the bridge issue is, as we all know, is quite a topic. And but what seems to be coming through is that most people that I've talked to at this stage favour the Midwest location. It's kind of good now that we've got those zones actually identified, and it makes people think. So I think the process is working very well.
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah. So yeah, good work. And we're definitely keen to continue being involved in supporting in whatever way we can. So any other questions? No? Okay, well, with that, we will take the recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Eva Lisa Wright, Group Manager, Service Delivery, titled Cambridge Connections Update. I'm happy to move, and Gerda second. Thank you. All in favour say aye. Against carried. Thank
So
you.
if I may, Chair, I also want to acknowledge from staff and thank the Community Board. Lots of workshops, lots of information, and so without your input, we wouldn't have got to the point that we are today. So just wanted to recognise that from the staffing team. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Right, we'll move on to upcoming constructions work in the Cambridge CBD, and looks like we still have you, Eva Lisa, which is lovely. So would you like to take us through your next report?
So yes, moving into this construction work. So as the report states, it is an update report on a renewals project for a wastewater pump station located in the Wilson Street area. So it's a renewal project, which means it's an upgrade of an existing. Of note in the report that the works being underway, so they will be critical in nature, but it's around minimising the disruption in the busy central area, and work will be taken at night, and so that's another real key in terms of community engagement and advice. And there will be, it's called trenchless construction. So what that means is that you'll have someone drilling, a machine drilling the infrastructure underground without having to dig big trenches with dozers. So a little bit less destructive and quieter, but it's still using machinery in that area. So I'm happy to take any questions. I hope to answer them. If I cannot answer them, with my technical team unfortunately being unavailable tonight, I will take those back and get those responses through to you if there are any.
I note sort of it's pretty much going through the car park and underneath some buildings. I mean, how will it impact those people who are within, I don't know, 100 metres of the proposed sort of route in order to get, because I can imagine it's probably not going to be overly pleasant.
And I think that's where the because I'm not over the full technical detail of that, generally what would happen is there would be engagement with anyone close to the locations and working with them to ensure the disruption. I'm not guaranteeing there won't be any, but it's about minimising it. The contracts and processes will be, they're pretty controlled and they're pretty specialised and have done a lot of this work. So the teams they are skilled in that. But in terms of that, how we'll make sure that there is good communication in that process and good contact availability should there be concerns.
What is the time frame for a disruption from start to finish? Do you have any idea?
I don't have that specific question and answer. I'm looking at the procurement plan as I speak, and I cannot find the time frame. Oh, there you go. 6 months. Thank you.
And
Procurement plan.
just assuming that it will take place in stages over that 6-month period.
So generally what happens is, yes, they do the stages as they move through implementing the network and the renewals program. So the whole area won't for 6 months, it's as they stage.
Yeah, staged. Perfect. Any other questions? Comfortable? Okay, that's great. Thank you for the update. So we have a recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of, is it Silky? Oh, Silky? Dual? Project Manager titled Upcoming Constructions Work in Cambridge CBD. Can I have a mover? Dakota, seconder? Chris? Yeah, great. All in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And now joining us online, we have Melissa for our monthly long-term plan project update. So we can see and hopefully hear you, Melissa. And so when you're ready, you can present your report. Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Cambridge Community Board. So this report obviously details the latest progress on the long-term plan. And you'll see, as detailed in the report, there was a workshop on the 27th of May. And at that workshop, we discussed with elected members key financial and infrastructure documents. So the main topic for discussion was really focused on the financial strategy. So this is a key strategic planning document that does look at the financial parameters that really sets a strong foundation for the long-term plan. So it's pretty important. You'll see each of these parameters are detailed in the report, and you'll see included in red is the feedback from elected members at that workshop. So I won't go into detail on those. Another thing that was discussed was the revenue and financing policy. This policy does look at how each of the activities and services provided by council sets out how those are essentially paid for in terms of benefit, looking at the split versus or rates versus fees and charges, that type of thing. And as you'll see, as detailed in the report, the policy is largely still fit for purpose. And then looking forward, the next big workshop coming up is really focused on the levels of service provided by council. So this will be a first in a series of workshops looking at levels of service. So this will be held on the 25th of June. And at that workshop, we'll be seeking feedback from elected members on the services provided by council and where elected members might want staff to go away and do some further detailed work to understand and then consider where they might like changes to those levels of service. So, you know, that includes things like increases or decrease depending on what the outcome of that work will be. So that's where we're at in the process. Obviously happy to take questions.
Right. I think we have a question from Andrew Myers, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa. Great report. And it was really comforting to see those comments in red from the elected members. I thought they were in tune with their feeling for ratepayers. So I just, well done to the key members for that. And that summary there's easy to read and quite clear that they're taking the economic climate of the council really seriously. So that's really good. And also to follow on the level of service meeting, I've always been supportive of looking hard at level of service to make rates affordable and reduce cost in council. So I'm glad that there's meetings being held about it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Okay, so that's great. We'll take the recommendation then. That the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Daisy Wills, Strategic Policy Advisor, titled 2027-37 Long-Term Plan Project Update. Could I have a mover, please? Pip and then second, Andrew. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Thanks so much, Melissa. Have a good evening. And now we are moving on to simplifying local government and the Head Start pathway. And Mia, Mike is here this evening to present this report to us. We're very interested to hear more about this. And thank you for the background information.
Right. Right. Thank you, Chair Charlotte. Hey, great to be here. Look, I'm standing in for William, who was to present this report, but he's tied up in another meeting this evening, though I was always coming along anyway for him, us to support each other. So I'll take the report as read, but if you don't mind, I just wish to touch on several things sort of beyond the report possibly, and it might help with some preempting some questions also. So as you sort of seen, this change to local government has come top down from national government. So it's not an opt-in, opt-out thing. It's right across the country. It's not just a Waikato thing. So that's the first thing, I guess, for people to understand. There's two parts to this. You can either enter through what's called a Head Start program, which is putting in your sort of your best foot forward in terms of what you think your territorial authority should look like in the future and where it fits into your local region, for us Waikato. Or you can go into what's called a backstop, which you just sort of leave it alone and let the government decide what to do and where you should go and where you sort of best fit. As Minister Bishop sort of said, you take the carrot or you take the stick, were his words, and the carrot being you control your own destiny, or at least hopefully you do, in terms of putting something in by August the 9th. Or use the stick as basically you leave it up to the whims of government. So in fact, I think, well, I'll talk for us, but most of the Waikato territorial authorities, if not all of them, are heading down the Head Start process, which is by August the 5th, we want to put something to government. Is there alignment across Waikato? No, there isn't. Are we working constructively together? Yes, we definitely are. So that's at the mayoral level, but it's also at the CE level. And then there's other levels that the CEs have got organised too. So there's different streams, work streams of work coming together. And we've got a couple of mayoral forum meetings coming up. They've been added into the program because I think the next one wasn't until August the 15th, which is obviously beyond the date this has to be in. There's also an iwi chairs meeting, which we have with the mayors also, so that'll be an important meeting, and there's some work going on in that space also. And for us, we have touched base with Ngāti Hawa, with Raukawa, with Waikato Tainui, with Ngāti Koriki Kahikura, Ngāti Apakura. So I think it's just Maniapoto who we haven't spoken to in that space. There are a lot of public meetings coming up. This is actually the first one of them. So you're first cab off the rank. We've got the Chamber of Commerce here in Cambridge tomorrow, and we just go from there. It's a short and sharp consultation period with the community. The government really don't expect a lot of consultation at this point in time, but that's not how we feel. So what we're trying to do is the best we can in the time we have to get the feeling of the community through face-to-face meetings like this, but also we've got surveys out there. And the reason I gave this little card out, and I'm sure these can be picked up on the counter at the offices in Te Awamutu and Cambridge, is they've got a QR code on them, and they take you to the fundamentals of what Head Start looks like and our proposals as a council, which I'll go into at the moment. And on there's a little survey to fill out, but it just gives the maps. Look, there's not loads of detail because this really is build the plane as we fly it. Every bit of detail isn't there. But from August the 9th, or it goes into the pot, into government. They make a decision sometime in September before the House rises, and they'll say whether your proposal has been accepted or not. If it's accepted, then you've got until, I think, March next year to actually put the detail into the proposal. So the new entity comes into play, if accepted, for the next election. Okay, so it's the 2028 election. So by the first quarter of that year, it would sort of be finalised, and then people would know what it looks like, how the entity is set up in terms of local voice, and that's a big part of what we'll be pushing, that the local voice piece is really important, and how that is managed, and how that community voice, I guess, is voiced in a bigger entity. Some of the rules around it, heading into it, is you either have to have, of your region, you have to have 2 councils join with a minimum of 50% of the population base, which is, let's say, Hamilton and Waikato would make up that, for instance. No other 2 would make that up by themselves. Or you can have 6 councils join up. Now, how hard and fast they are on that in the end, I don't know, because there's a whole lot of different proposals that will be going in. Some of the things that are important are, maintaining that community voice, which we've talked about. There's benefits in size and scale. And look, and that's, I would argue, well, actually, if I start here, if I go back to this, if I go back to the map, so there's 4 maps there. So our first preference is option A, which is all of Waikato Unitary Authority. So that's taking regional council functions and territorial authority functions and putting it across all of Waikato, and that map there sort of displays that. Now, Thames Coromandel, I mean, they could sort of swing Bay of Plenty way or our way, for instance, as some of these other councils have more than one option also, to be fair. That was strongly voiced by our table as a preferred option. What it gives is, I guess, it takes care of the catchment issue, so catchments around rivers, floodplains, all those sorts of things. It takes care of iwi issues in terms of area just dealing with one organisation. It takes care of if you're building a house or you've got a business, there's one set of rules across the whole district, whether you've got a batch, not in Waihi Beach, but it's a Waihi or something, or you've got one in Waitomo, it's the same set of rules. Okay, so there's a lot of advantages in that, and then size if you look at Auckland, they've got their own minister. This makes up about 530 odd thousand people in this catchment. So you've actually got some horsepower when you go to Wellington, with ministers and private and secretaries and that sort of thing. So there's advantage to it. You'll notice I haven't talked about financial advantage. Now there'll be people that tell you there is, and there may well be, but I'm sort of going to be more focused on the ease of doing business, the catchment approach. It deals with all iwi and one way of doing business. Options B, C, and D, there is no real hierarchy in this as a group. So don't think B is our second choice. It isn't necessarily at all. They're all pretty much for muchness. So that B is our future proof, which is really the growth councils made up of Matamata Piako, Waikato, Hamilton, and Waipa. So they also make up obviously the vast majority of the population. Just Waikato is about 93 odd thousand people. Hamilton's about 193,000. We're about 63,000. And Matamata Piako is about 40,000. So you add those all up and it's the vast majority of the 530 odd thousand. If you go to option C, that is the Waikato Waters entity, which we're about to enter into on July the 1st. So that's made up of, including Taupō, 7 councils. Okay. It has its advantages and disadvantages. It doesn't really deal well with all of catchment. For instance, the Waikato River doesn't actually just finish with us. It continues. There's iwi cross boundaries here and that sort of thing, and it's not one way of doing business across everywhere, but it's an organisation that has been stood up. So obviously it's something we would also look at this point in time. And option D is the one that's probably coming last. Not coming last as in the last one that's been put on the table through some more information we had, really listening to the folks from Waikato Regional Council and about the importance of catchment. So if you take the sort of mustard colour, that would be one catchment following the Waikato River, and the other catchment is following the Waiho Piako catchment. So effectively that would split Waikato into 2 entities, but it would follow the river from source to outflow at Port Waikato, for instance. Again, you'd have really good numbers in there, but the green side, the numbers there are obviously aren't so many, and it also starts splitting, particularly South Waikato, it starts splitting current territorial authorities in, not in half, but splits them. And that's because they're following catchment. So, like I say, our preferred option is option A, and I won't tell you my personal one because it doesn't matter at all in terms of a next, because we haven't discussed it as a group. So the benefit of scale, size and voice is part of the reason we've gone option A. It's also building those regional relationships and one way of doing things, one standard of doing things. It's improving regional coordination, and in theory that should lead to better outcomes. And as I've alluded to, if I just one set of rules or one way of doing things across the region, I give an example of someone who possibly used to sit around this table, the funeral parlour business, and it's got businesses in different regions, but obviously people get buried across regions. And the example was, and I won't go with territorial authorities, but this one is very easy to deal with. I can basically phone them up, dig my own hole. This one here is quite difficult to deal with. There's all sorts of you got to use their diggers and all that sort of thing. You got plenty of notice and all the rest of it. And there's one sort of up or down the road, and there's sort of somewhere in between. So he said having one set of rules would be so great as a business. So the Mayoral Forum has met twice. We are meeting twice more. What else we got here? So the 5 principles. So these principles that have really come down through government about it has to be deliverable, supports planning reform, because as we know, there's changes to the RMA are imminent, and they will happen before the election. Simplifying governance. So at the moment, there's about 200 elected members across the Waikato region, and it would obviously there would not be 200 members at the end of this process. You would expect far less. But it's still how you capture local voice. Okay, but local voice won't be as local as it was. It can't be. It really can't be. So it's how to deal with that. And there's models being done up at the moment by the CEs, and they'll bring those to us, but there has been some models presented to us already. We've had some good meetings, including with Minister Watts. He's one of the key ministers involved in this. We actually had a one-on-one meeting with him a week or so ago, and just giving our perspective on the lie of the land and the rationale of why we've gone for all the Waikato approach, which would align fairly probably well with the government's approach to get this as simple as possible, as fewer entities as possible, but it still has to work. And they also acknowledge that in big places there may be more than one entity, and we realise that also. So look, I think ultimately the decision will come down to council when this goes in on the August the cabinet when it goes in on August the 9th or before. But at least we'll know within a sort of a month or five or 6 weeks of where we sit, and then the next sort of work begins of actually getting the detail into the program. A lot more consultation, particularly around I think the local voice piece. But in the meantime, it's just really encouraging people to actually fill a survey out. Look, it's absolutely, we acknowledge this is not the ultimate in terms of consultation. But when the minister sort of slouched back and when the minister sort of sat there and sort of said, hey, a whole meeting and a survey, yeah, I think most territorial authorities want to do a lot more than that between now and August. And that's what we're trying to do. So happy to take any questions, Madam Chair.
Let's do it.
Couple of questions, Mike. One, why is it so rushed? Something this major should take a lot longer. We've been working on a new bridge for 50 years. We haven't even started on that yet. Now doing this, they want to do this overnight. Take a couple of years at least.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. And I think a lot of people would absolutely agree with you. There was about 1,100 submissions that went into government, and some of those submissions sort of said we want to go hard, we want to go fast. The government listened to those, however many there were, because there were some territorial authorities that have been working on this for the last 1 to 2 years, and they were ready to go. So I think it was the government's anticipation that only those that have been working on this for quite some period of time would jump into the Head Start proposal, and the rest of the country would go into a backstop. But once they started talking carrot and stick, it's not as simple as just you haven't done any work and just leave it because you're at the whim of the government. And so not everyone at all, but a lot of territorial authorities have said, well, we want to try and be in control of our own destiny. So that's
the majority of the country said no, they don't want it. And then the government can't make you do it, surely.
Well, unfortunately, they can as long as they're in government. I understand what you're saying, but they can legislate to make it happen. So, look, your point about it being rushed is really valid, and we are very conscious of that. And that's why when it goes in, the next 5 months after that are going to be really important. So, look, this is going to suck energy. You know, we just got out of Waikato waters, and we had the floods and the storm damage, and it just keeps coming. So, staff keep getting siphoned off, resource keep getting siphoned off into stuff that's normally coming down from above us.
Other questions? Yeah, Pat?
Just a comment. I think when I've been sort of trying to consult as much as possible on these sorts of issues, the thing that becomes very apparent to me is people don't actually realise what we do as a territorial local authority and what regional councils do as a regional council. They know what we do sort of generally, but there's 550 people at the Waikato Regional Council.
Well, maybe more than that. Yep.
And so it is a leap. And because of the two different functions on the two different councils, you know, most people, when I talk about this, they just shake their head and go, I don't know what to do. It's sort of, so yeah, it is a huge, you know, change for us. But yeah, because the regional council work in such different levels, I think a lot of people are going, I don't know.
Yeah, and look, and thank you, Councillor Pip. A couple of comments around that really. Yeah, one is the complexity of the regional council, and we got a presentation to us only a couple of weeks ago, and it really opened our eyes to sort of what's involved in what they do. And the other thing is their cost, well, their financial structure in terms of us as ratepayers. And there are some areas that subsidise quite heavily other areas. And so I think when the financials come down and the financial officers are working on this, there's a bunch of them, and they'll bring these figures to the territorial authorities like ourselves. And I think when some of the territorial authorities see by going too small or staying away from the big population areas, they'll see the subsidy that comes out of the bigger population areas to subsidise some of those other areas. And I think personally, they'll get quite a shock in terms of a cost to their ratepay if they try and go too small.
Just sort of following off that, and what a lot of people don't realise that when they talk about a unitary authority, they're putting the regional council together with the territorial council, which is really pretty much what they did in Auckland. And so it's sort of, you know, it is, you know, the aim is not like to, on behalf of the government, to actually move as much as possible to unitary authority. So some of the issues that we had tonight with regard to the you know, consent of a sort of a building facility where you go, what sits with a local council, what sits with a regional council, etc. And well, there's sort of a lot of stuff in between. That stuff will no longer be, because it'll just be a single unitary authority managing, you know, air, water, you know, the environment, as well as the local. So I mean, it does have a lot of structural advantages of having a unitary authority rather than us, the local authority, and we've got this entity called Waikato Regional Council that does stuff that we don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, the key is simplifying local government.
You mentioned that you reckon that costs come down, rates come down, things like that. Auckland amalgamated 13 councils, and their rates haven't come down at all.
Yeah, I said just the opposite, Stu. I said I'm not going to sit here and tell you rates are going to come down. Others may. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. In 10 years' time, when I'm sitting in my rocking chair, I'll let you know whether rates didn't come down but didn't go up as much. But look, I think the focus, I can see the advantages around one way of doing things, you know, and just, I mean, I had to consent something a little while back, and I had to deal with two councils, for instance, and it was A, expensive, and B, complicated, and C, longitudinal. So yeah, I think the one-stop shop in terms of that will actually be advantageous. In theory, yes, it should bring down, you know, rates from what they could have been. But hey, let's just wait and see around that part of it.
It's the whole idea is to simplify things, right? And make it easier to operate. So will they look at simplifying processes? Because that's my frustration with in this space is the processes are very complicated, report after report that the guys provide. Will that be looked at as well?
100% that will be looked at. Good. Let's look at the moment. You've got small territorial authorities, and we're a medium one, say, but a lot of our systems are very isolated from each other, even within territorial authorities. To get good data is very difficult, and so folks smaller than us, it's even more difficult. So look, having a bigger entity or entities, and having over time, because it's not going to happen overnight, one system, one operating system, you know, it's obviously going to be beneficial. I mean, yeah. So the answer is yes, simplifying it absolutely back of house is a big part of where simplifying can actually happen.
So in terms of, where to from here during this short consultation process, I think the key thing is obviously trying to help people understand how this works, because people in the community are already starting to talk about it, and what amalgamation could mean in terms of, retaining that local voice. I'm just having a look at the submission form. Is the ultimate goal for us to try and encourage people to complete that form, or do you want verbal feedback? Like, how can we best make sure that community voice is heard in this process?
Yeah, look, hey, thank you, Chair. Look, anecdotal feedback is always really, really good. And Chris, I heard you give some earlier in the meeting. But look, written feedback is actually to be better, to be honest, because it can be synthesized and then analyzed through a system. And it'll sort of give quite a good steer based on sort of hard evidence of where we head to, because we think we've made the right decision. What normally happens is form follows function. But in this case, it's exactly the opposite way around, We're asking you to look at the form of what it looks like structurally without all the functions that sit underneath it. So it's very inverted to how we'd like to do business, but it's because of such a tight time frame. And because we do want to at least engage in some way with our communities. Government, to be honest, can be very happy if we just engage after September. Like, they're happy with that. But really, you've made a big decision of what it's going to look like. You're really then working out how within that what you've chosen is going to look like. So for us, it's important to at least try and go out with something, even if it is the form, with a bit of the functions in there. Yeah. So look, we're building the plane as we fly it, but the whole country is, apart from those few that have been thinking about this for quite some time.
This would have to be in the history of this country one of the biggest things that they've ever done in government and whatever. Once we go down that track, there's no going back, is there?
Well,
That's custard.
Yeah. Well, this current setup's lasted since 1989. There used to be some photos of some mayors up here that finished Cambridge Borough that finished 1989. So I guess if you look at that, Stuart, it's about 39 years before this thing, the current system, and when it finishes in 2028. So you sort of want to try and get this right. I'm sort of thinking this should last 100 years. If we need to really get it right. So it's important that we've got quite a tight time frame. But there's a lot to think about. There's a lot going on, I'm sure, all of our heads. And it's getting that proportional representation, so one area doesn't dominate the next sort of thing. And it's really, so there's a lot of work that needs to go in there to ensure that, that sort of no one's left behind type thing, that people down in Mokau, that they're thought of as people up in Colville, if the whole thing came together as people in Hamilton or in Te Awamutu or Cambridge. Andrew.
Is there any work been done on the governance and representation and how that might look?
Yeah, so Andrew, so that's a piece of work that the regional council did finish us with just an initial starting point paper, but the CEs are doing some good work on that at the moment, and that will come back to our next meeting, because that is something at least we want to take. What we're trying to do is get as much agreements before August the 9th across the region as we can. And even if we can't get agreements on everything, some of the structure stuff, we can get some sort of surface level agreements on. And so that's absolutely being worked on at the moment. And look, it's a changing feast. Like a week and a half ago, look, it just changes all the time. That's what I'll say. You sit down with the minister, you sit down with the DIA, you can get slightly different answers, and then suddenly something might look like it's possible. So it really is, it'll be interesting what Cabinet come up with when we put out, yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Right.
lot. I think other questions will probably come to mind. So we'll
Yeah.
probably participate in more of the community meetings for sure, and also just to understand the sentiment out there in the community. Yeah, just looking at the questions that have been asked, what makes Waipa special, and what would you want to see preserved in any future council arrangement? What opportunities would you like to see for Waipa and its communities? It still sounds quite sugar-coated, and actually, do we need to just get to the root cause of the problem? Like, what is the problem we're trying to solve here, and why is option A the best one? Like, and let's actually discuss that in an open and honest way. Maybe that's the sort of like grunt we need to
Well,
need to go
that's
for this.
and that's the sort of feedback that we want, because the 12 of us chose option A based on the information we had, and really based on a lot of the rationale I've sort of just talked to you about. But it might be that option D ends up being, follow the river. It might end up being that. But look, so it'll be interesting where the feedback leads to, because I don't know how much influence feedback's going to have on the government in terms of from community. Talking to the minister in Wellington, Minister Bishop, it wasn't high on the priority list. It's high on the priority list for Waipa District Council, as you'll see with other territorial councils around here. They see it as important, but that's because we're council, we're not government. We're sort of closer to, the sort of decision making of people. So yeah, looks all feedback is going to be good. Nice haircut there, Monty.
Thanks so much, Mayor Mike. And we really appreciate you coming to deliver this to the community board. That's pretty awesome. So I guess we'll take the recommendation with that the Cambridge Community Board received the report of William Durning, Principal Advisor, Title Simplifying Local Government. Would anyone like to move? Pip, and second, Gerda, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thanks so much.
No. You can take yours back.
Thank you. Right, Tim, are we okay to keep moving? Do you need to have a 5? Yeah, you keep going? All right. So let's move on to Global Cities New Zealand Conference 2026. We're going to hand over to Joe, who's going to lead this report.
Thank you. So the purpose of the report that you've got in front of you today is to decide whether you want to send a member to the Global Cities New Zealand Conference 2026, which is going to be held in Christchurch. I don't think I don't think a Cambridge Community Board member has attended for the last couple of years. I don't think since 23, 24. But you can see there in the background, they've got they've just introduced made available the draft program at the moment. So you've got an address from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, multi-city and network partnerships, partnering for good, the life cycle of a relationship presentation, and panel discussions. And you'll see in the financial considerations section, we've got an estimate of costs there for attendance based on one person attending. Does anyone have any questions about the report?
Andrew.
How's it going to advantage the Waipa District by sending a member?
So I think the purpose in terms of is making that connection and getting being able to go to the sessions and connect with other people and hear what these presenters have got to say about sister cities. And so there's really only that one kind of option this conference to have that national networking opportunity and learning opportunity. I know from time to time they do those regional forums. I don't think we've had one of those up here for a while. So it's really in terms of whether you feel in terms of your sister city's journey, whether this is something this learning and networking opportunity is something that you wish to embark on or not.
Any other questions? Yeah.
If I just give a perspective, I think Alana's been to this before, and Alana put an enormous amount of work to running the sister cities relationships in previous iterations of Cambridge Community Board, like huge amount. And it was really worthwhile for her going, and it helped her be as good as she was in it. So if you are committed to the sister cities relationship, it is a really good way, like any professional development, of keeping people sort of focused and upskilled in it. So that's what I observed. I thought it was, if you're serious about running sister cities, it was a really useful vehicle to keeping good at that. Okay.
Yeah, I like good observations, and I think I agree with you that, and there is an expectation that this community board delivers our sister city relationships in an effective way. Personally, I'm supportive of someone attending. I think it is good practice. We haven't been involved in the sister city relationships before now, any of us around this table. So I would definitely encourage someone to represent our board.
Just another note on this, with what me and Mike was just talking about. You know, this reorganisation of local government is so massive. How things like this survive or don't survive out of that, it's really moot. And I suspect it'll be something that'll be talked about down there. I would be if I was running it. So it's kind of timely, because if Waipa District Council ceases to exist, Cambridge Community Board ceases to exist, who's going to carry these kind of things? How's it going to be funded? All these kind of questions, okay? They're really live.
Is this something that we can take offline and as a community board and discuss informally to come back to you?
At this point in time, if you wanted to just receive the report, and then what we could do is we could put the report back on the August agenda. I will just have to quickly have a look and see when registration closed. So you
Yeah, I'm probably talking 1 week. Like, we had a meeting, we often meet weekly or every second week, and we can nut it out and make it whole.
Well, we have to approve a budget as part of the recommendation. Yeah, at the meeting.
Budget. Not
Yes.
Can we approve the budget and not select the person, and then we don't have to spend the money if it's approved? So we'll just nut that out at our meeting.
Is that acceptable, Joe? Approve an attendee to go.
5 minutes, so I don't feel it's responsible to spend $2,500 on that basis.
Just while you're thinking, Joe, I should know this, but who are the chairs of these two? It's Gerda and Andrew, right? Okay.
To me, what would make sense is if we approve the funding and then it's decided that nobody can go, those funds can be redeposited back into the system, surely.
It does say that they need the prior approval of the community board for someone to attend a course. So I think we would need to have something in a recommendation.
Can we decide, I think we in agreement that someone should attend. We just haven't decided who. Am I right? Do we have to say at this meeting who's attending, Joe? Or?
like I say, I'm interested, but I'm no Alana Mackay. So, you know, we need to just have a discussion about that and what the community board feels about that.
Okay, should we just take a quick break? And yeah, we'll come back in a second.
I suppose, so obviously, if you need to check out people's availability, and we could do that. If people need to check diaries and things like that during an adjournment, that would be appropriate.
Okay, let's do that. Let's adjourn for 5 minutes and then we'll come back and have a look at our recommendations.
Okay, thank you for your patience. We just had to check diaries. We were discussing our item Global Sister Cities New Zealand Conference 2026 and just looking at availability in diaries of our members to see if attendance at this year's Global Sister Cities conferences is doable. So we've done that now. Would members like to say if they would be available to attend?
I'm unavailable.
I'm not available.
Yeah, 3rd to the 5th of September.
I'm not available.
I could be available.
Yeah, Andrew's available. I'm not available, unfortunately. But I think if we were to send somebody, we should have sort of either one of the chairs from one of the sister city relationships to be in attendance, because otherwise it would be, I think, a little bit wasted if we didn't have one of those chairs there.
Yeah, look, I strongly concur with that. If we're sending someone, it should be one of the chairs, because they're in the best position to implement the lessons they learn down there.
Yeah, absolutely. So our Lukumwa working group is chaired by Gerda, who's unavailable, and our Bihoro City working group is chaired by Andrew Myers. So it looks like, Andrew, we are potentially nominating you, if that's okay, to represent Cambridge Community Board at the conference. So I think what we'll do is we'll run through recommendations A, B, and C. Recommendation A receives the report of Joe Greed, Manager Governance, titled Global Sister Cities New Zealand Conference 2026. We'll just do them one by one, I think. Can I have a mover and seconder on that one, Pip and Gerda? Thank you. And then, yeah, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. Recommendation B approves that board member Andrew Myers attend the Global Sister Cities New Zealand Conference 2026 to be held from the 3rd to the 5th of September 2026 in Christchurch, which includes air travel to Christchurch. Can I have I'm happy to move, and Stuart second. Right, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. And then approves the payment of up to $2,565 plus GST from its Sister Cities Reserve Fund for costs associated with attendance at the Global Sister Cities New Zealand Conference, with any unspent funds returned to uncommitted. Again, a mover and a seconder, Pip and Gerda. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Right, and that takes us on to page 77 of our agenda, which is the Lukumwa Delegation 2026 report. And again, we'll hand it over to Joe.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to really present the work of the Lukumwa working group. There's a delegation coming out to Cambridge from the 4th to the 7th of December. So there's 26 in that delegation. So the Lukumwa working group have been working hard, pulling together an itinerary and potential costs for that. But because the delegation is going to be in that first week of December, they wanted to make sure they were organised well in advance and we could get the budget looked at and considered today, so we can make sure those bookings are in place at quite a busy time of year. So you'll see in Appendix 1, you've got your itinerary, and there is a budget in Appendix 2. You've actually, important point to note is that you've already set aside, in terms of your Sister Cities funds, $10,000. That was in Resolution 52511, so that was some time ago. So today, out of your uncommitted, it's asking you to commit another $3,346.70 in addition to that. it's proposing that any unspent funds are returned to uncommitted. And given that the time frame between now and the delegation, we were looking at, in terms of efficiency, delegating the responsibility for making any changes to those itinerary or costings to the chair of the Lekanwa working group, provided that the cost didn't exceed that total over budget. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Probably just more of a comment. We've been sitting on the working group meetings, and there is a pretty incredible working group putting this agenda together to showcase our town and host this this group of people. So I think we need to probably take this opportunity to also acknowledge the amazing work that group of volunteers are doing. Gerda, do you have anything else you want to contribute to this?
Yeah, so once again, it's exactly what you've said. They're so passionate about this, so this is really good. Made my job a lot easier. We also have I'll add that we've got more. So in the budget, apart from the budget, there's a lot of like little gifts and stuff that are donated or sponsored. So just to make it look really valuable. But that's about all.
Any other questions before we go through the recommendations? All right, so we've got recommendations A, B, C, D, and E. So again, I'll just go through them one by one. So recommendation A is that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Joe Gree, Governance Manager, titled Lekanwa Delegation 2026. A mover and a seconder, Gerda Pitt. Thank you. All in favour say aye. Against carried, and approves the itinerary included in Appendix 1 of this report. I'm happy to move. And seconder, Pip. Thank you. All in favour say aye. Against carried. Recommendation C approves the expenditure for the Lekanwa delegation as set out in Appendix 2 of this report, with $10,000 to be funded from the amount allocated for the Lekanwa delegation under Resolution 52511, and the balance of $3,346.70 to be funded from uncommitted funds in the Sister Cities Reserve. Can I have a mover? Pip, and seconder? Stuart, thank you. All in favour say aye. Against carried. Recommendation D, that the Cambridge Community Board agrees to return any unspent funds from recommendation C to uncommitted Sister Cities Reserve funds. Happy to move. And second, Andrew. All in favour say aye. Against carried. And then recommendation E delegates authority to the chair of the Lekanwa Working Group to make any changes to the itinerary or expenditure listed in Appendix 1 and 2 of this report, which may be required between now and the Lekanwa delegation in December, provided that expenditure for the Lekanwa delegation does not exceed $13,346.70. Could I have a mover, please? Great, Monty. And seconder, Pip. All in favour say aye. Against carried. Thank you so much. And now we will go on to the less complicated Bihoro Rural Exchange, which is page 88 of our agenda.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to present an option to the community board to consider organising a rural exchange with its sister cities Pahoro, with a delegation of young farmers travelling to Japan. The timescale's not yet set, could either be in 2026 or autumn of 2027. So that's still being worked through. And so the idea, if the community board approved embarking on that particular project, would be that it would then delegate the authority for the Pahoro Sister Cities Working Group to go through the process and organise that. So the working group would establish a process and select people for the rural exchange program and finalise details of the trip. They would also seek and look at options for funding and would be liaising with Bahoro representatives to coordinate hosting and delivery of exchange. So be delegating those roles down to the working group. But today it is looking to, if you approve embarking on this rural exchange program, also approving a payment of up to $500 plus GST to advertise in the local paper and online for applicants for the project. So this is something that has come out of the Bahoro working group. Anyone have any questions, or Member Myers might want to comment as chair?
What is seen as young farmers? Do you have those parameters yet?
Post high school, working sub 30, perhaps sort of 18 to 30 in the formative years of a career. And I'll just continue to comment as chair. We've received proposal for 50% funding for the trip by the Yamaki Lovely Trust, and that is a local trust set up purely to facilitate sister city relationship with Bahoro and Cambridge. Self-fund 50%, and the reason we can't commit to like a time of the event is because we don't have the other 50%. So we propose advertising to look for applicants needing $500 to advertise. And then when the applicants submit, they'll be informed that there'll be some self-funding required and an advertisement to call for additional community funding, which we're confident we'll receive. And once we receive and kind of lock that in, we can book, dates and times. So that's a proposal. It's a bit of a grey. It's the first time it's ever been done, this initiative. So I can't really confirm exact dates, but we're moving closer and getting in the right direction.
Sounds cool, eh? Any other questions for Andrew or Joe, or should we just run through the recommendations? Okay, we'll go again A to D, that the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Joe Greed, Governance Manager, Title Bihoro Rural Exchange. Mover, Gerda, seconder Chris. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Recommendation B, the Cambridge Community Board agrees to organise a rural exchange program with its sister city, Bihoro, involving a delegation of young farmers travelling to Japan in 2026 or autumn 2027. I'm happy to move that. And second, Gerda, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. And then recommendation C, that the Cambridge Community Board approves a payment of up to $500 plus GST from the Sister Cities Reserve Fund to advertise in the local paper and online for applicants for the Rural Exchange Program, with any unspent funds returned to uncommitted. A mover, Gerda, second, Pitt, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. And then lastly, the Cambridge Community Board delegates authority to the Bihoro Sister City Working Group to establish a process and select people for the Rural Exchange Program and to finalise details of the trip, seek funding opportunities for the Rural Exchange Program, and liaise with Bihoro representatives to coordinate hosting and delivery of this exchange. I'm happy to move. And seconder, Pitt, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to Chairperson's report for June 2026. I will take the report as read, but am happy to answer any questions. There's quite a lot of detail. It has been quite a busy month and lots going on, especially with workshops. So yeah, happy to take any questions that you have. Well, you're very easy to please. All right, we'll move to the recommendation then. That the Cambridge Community Board receives the report of Charlotte Fitzpatrick, Chairperson, Cambridge Community Board, titled Chairperson's Report June 2026. Can I have a mover? I'm so keen. Stuart and Chris, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And then we move on to the Treasury report on page 101 of our agenda. Joe.
So this is the Treasury report for the period ended 31st of May 2026. Does anyone have any questions on the detail in there?
How did our uncommitted funds get to precisely zero? I've never seen that before.
Wasn't that because we put the rest of the funds that we had into the hall? So we shifted everything that we could into that Tomato Hall. And it looks like we're happy to move to recommendation that the Cambridge Community Board receive the report of Nada Milne, Financial Accountant, titled Treasury Report for the period ended 31 May 2026. I'm happy to move. I have a seconder. Oh, Monty. All in favour say aye. Against? Carried. And now we'll do our board members' report from meetings attended on behalf of the Cambridge Community Board. So would you like to start, Monty? We'll go this way.
I've actually done my usual and worked backwards through all council meetings in the last month, and I've got nothing to report because you're up to date on everything relevant, particularly Cambridge Connections, the long-term plan, and the future for local government. Mike's just given us an excellent summary. So from Cambridge Community Board's perspective, those are three massive pieces of work. Particularly Charlotte's up with them because you're coming to all our workshops, but you are filling in the team. Your chairperson's report has got it all there. So particularly Cambridge Connections and the long-term plan are my babies. I chair both of those project governance groups. So any questions you've got, I'm perfectly happy to field them now or any other time, okay? So, but I have nothing to update you on. If you know everything I think you need to know at this stage.
Thanks, Monty. We're all happy with that update? Yeah, thank you. We'll move on to you, Pip.
Likewise with Mike. Been a busy time at council. It was great to work with Chris to put together a sort of like a little tent and a flag and a and a tabletop with sort of Waipa District Council, and we sat it at the market, and we had a lot of lively debate with a number of people that were came up to see us. I think it's a great idea, and we're going to run it the last Saturday of every month, but this coming month we're actually going to have the second to last Saturday because we want to consult around the issues that Mike was talking about. But I think it really does show that if you put up some Waipa District Council signage and you put a flag, we're here to talk, people will come up and talk and will tell you what they think. Sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't, but I think it's a great initiative and we're getting some really good feedback. And I think most importantly, we're actually trying to truly connect with the community, and that's a very good thing.
As you just heard, there's a bit of work been going on about the Bohoro sister city relationships. So we've met with a subset of the committee and met with the Yamaki Lovely Trust to secure some funding there. I've met with Federated Farmers also to get assistance from them. I attended with Charlotte, Louise Upston's Chamber of Commerce budget breakfast, which I think was a good update to the state of play nationally, which feeds down into our district. I was at present at field days for 2 days. A lot of connection there with Waipa rural ratepayers. So it was really, really good. And then, as the flyer is in the meeting pack about the rural tour, that's next Tuesday. I've sent it to the community board. It's been on Facebook groups. I put posts on the Facebook groups rurally. The council's put on a Facebook post. It's been out in Tino. It's coming out in the paper tomorrow. I'll personally send it to about 50 people. So just if you've got anybody you can send it to, please do so. And really hope we get a bit of a turnout for the mayor to engage with about these sorts of issues discussed tonight. It'd be a fantastic forum for those people. Thank you.
Being highly involved with rugby, netball and other communities, I get asked the same question all the time. When are you going to get rid of the speed humps? When are you going to get the third bridge underway? And what are you going to do with congestion? I just tell them I'm not Superman. yeah, we're working on it and doing the best I can, but that I get asked that all the time. The one other thing too is talking to the people, they're a little bit disappointed in council and lack of the sort of losing trust in council. And the other one, that when my issue is there, I'm going to try and fight amalgamation as much as I can. I saw what happened to Cambridge Borough Council when it was made to join Te Muru, Waipa. Cambridge had higher valued homes. We paid higher rates than Te Muru, and they took all the services over Te Muru, and we didn't get looked after. And when I came to this town in the 70s, it was the best town in New Zealand. Now I think it's gone backwards, and like me, everyone else is sick of the money being wasted. And another thing I found out is in Taylor Street, up by the high school, they removed the speed hump there because somebody complained about it. And I managed to find out from Jason how much it cost. So to remove 2 speed bumps and put 2 more there was 13,500. Now this thing's happening all around Cambridge all the time, 13,000 here, 15,000 there, whatever. People are just sick of it. People have asked me about, can you break it down? So I've been to council today to try and get it itemised. But yeah, this money wasted, too much money wasted on wants rather than needs, and it's got to stop.
Thanks, Stuart. Chris, updates from you?
On the 19th of May, Gerda and I had the opportunity to meet with a local businessman, Dave Wilkinson, and to talk about the trucks on Pope Terrace, also on the Shakespeare roundabout. One of the issues that he has is basically with the roundabout, with the spokes on it, with empty trucks going across those, creating the noise. He said it's not reasonable to have them there, and so that was just something that we were talked about. We ended up talking for an hour, going round and round circles, but but I did take note that what Dave was saying. On the 30th of May, I attended with Charlotte and with Pip the market day, and we had a stand there for about 2.5 to 3 hours. During that time, we were also visited by Mayor Mike, and there was some good debate with people that were coming through. It was interesting to actually ask people what their idea of a bridge crossing and where it would be, and what it seemed to be, the majority of them seemed to think the Midwest site was the most appropriate. We had a lady that talked about the leaves and the blocking of drains and stuff like that. And I actually had an opportunity to talk to Steph, who turned up there as well. And we talked about, many years ago, there was a tractor with a big bin on the back of it, a big vacuum cleaner type thing. And they used to clear the leaves doing that, which they don't do now. So Steph thought it was a good idea to sort of try and find out what happened to that and how it went. So I was also approached by a guy, Stephen Laban Williams, who was looking for a workshop or a facility that he could set up a pottery studio. And I've been in touch with him and told him that we've got his number and everything, and that we'll keep an eye out for what he's looking for. And then on the 4th of June, Stuart and I transported Roger Dean's model church to CNR. We just about broke our backs with that on the cabinet, but we got it there. It's still got to go upstairs, but it's actually on display downstairs at the moment. So we finally got that carried out.
Chris, a couple of things. There's one guy that used to do all the leaves in Cambridge. He had a tractor, Ross Todd's actually built it, had a vacuum cleaner in front. And you might remember, you farmers might remember the old cage you used to use for silage, and you used to suck it in there and throw it into that. Now, he did all the Cambridge on his own. Now, when they do it, they do one street a day, and they have about 20 guys doing it. And getting back to Pope Terrace, with community boards come up with solutions. It wouldn't cost a lot and be quite easy. And that's to put rubber seals around the traps, around the steel things that make a lot of noise, and make a quietening seal on the road. Now, if it's so smooth and quiet, they will not make the noise they make now, the trucks, empty trucks and that. So it can be remedied and it wouldn't cost that much and it wouldn't have to wait years to get done.
So potentially something to put in lodge as a request through the information. Yeah.
Right, busy month. Cambridge Safer Trust. There was a report that it's going really well and it's very safe in Cambridge. Homelessness is better, but the thing is, I think most people move back to family or friends, so they're out of the cold. The only concern that came up was the kids on scooters, on the electric scooters, and how dangerous that is, especially at night when you can't see them. Another problem that we came up with is if there is an emergency event, like a big event, like say Christchurch, for example, there's no shared database because of the Privacy Act. So the wellness team has to go, welfare team has to approach this team and get special permission, and it's a real disjointed situation. So I don't know how to take it from here. We have with the Neighbourhood Watch, we have changed, I've updated their privacy policy, and there's an opt-in button where they can complete that they're happy for their details to be passed on in a real emergency. So that's good things. Aspen Road Quarry, you will remember a couple of months ago. So I had a meeting with a few of the neighbours and Carl Tati, and there's a new consent application for consent has been lodged. That's still in progress. Council has put some works that needs to be done around that, like resealing the driveway, etc. So it's still in the making, and there's still problems, but they are looking at it. Carl has been really, really helpful in that space. Resource Co had a meeting last Sunday after Open Homes with the people involved, the people who can make the submission, and just to see, Kelly was involved as well, so he ran the meeting, just to see if we can align concerns. What I have to say is the people involved are very, very well educated on what's happening there, what's going in there, how it's going to be set up, and there is real concerns. The main concern that came was water that affected most of Cambridge. What I did is I did sort of a draft template type submission just to give them an idea on how to lodge a submission. So they're not going to copy and paste, but they have an idea on how to do it. Out and about in town, what I do is every month I choose two questions. This month it was safety in town. Same thing, everyone sees town as very, very safe, so that is good. Just the same thing with the scooters, the electric scooters came up. The other question is, how do you feel about council? When I was just voted in, the trust was up there. It's gone down a bit, so that's probably something we can work with on comms, good communication. We had the meeting with Shakespeare Roundabout. There were parking issues at Wordsworth, Scott Street, at the for the residents there with a playground, and that they were given 3 options. Option 2 were chosen, so councillors onto it. They're going to do that, just paint yellow lines on the housing side so that they can't park there. Homeless people, definitely a few less there. I always stop and sit down with them and talk to them about, especially the ones with dogs. Make sure the dogs are also looked after. And it's really interesting, guys, do it to hear their stories and what is going on in the background. Lekenwa, very, very busy. So we've got the program sorted, the budget, thanks guys, approved. The guest list is nearly finalized, and honestly, kudos to the working committee. They've done a fantastic job. And then I also attended the 6-monthly report in Te Amuru with Charlotte. That went down really well. And Chamber of Commerce meeting on, if you go snapshot on the council website, the snapshot on flood zones, Tamira or Water was there, and they explained how they do that and how it's done and how to talk to council about that if your property is in flood zone. It's me.
Yeah, you've been very busy. So I have captured obviously some of my activities in the report. But just in addition to that, as Andrew said, I attended the post-budget breakfast with Louise Upson, hosted by the Cambridge Business Chamber. Others were here as well. An interesting comment that Louise made was that rates are now the highest contributor to inflation, which I thought was an interesting comment to make. I also, just on the Cambridge Business Chamber, attended the Love Cambridge launch at the Clements, which is actually a project on in my professional life that I supported and wrote some of those stories. And it was actually the whole thing's a very uplifting experience. Getting to know particular people in the community better, and we had some good discussions about how things are going from a community board perspective while I was interviewing them. So it was really good, and it's a great publication if you haven't. Like I wrote, yeah, you should read it. Yeah, so last week was field days. I was there Monday, Tuesday, setting up with clients, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday was there chatting to people. It's a amazing event. The logistics that go into it are incredible. The congestion back here is something that people talk about, and also. Unfortunately, some of our retailers also suffer in terms of how many people they get through their doors during Field Days Week, which is a little bit unfortunate. So while it does bring so many economic benefits to our community, we need to probably work with the chamber and retailers just to see if there's something that we can do next year to try and attract people back into Cambridge to spend money. This morning, the Te Awa Rise pedestrian and cycling bridge was officially opened, and there was a little ceremony held out there with Sanderson Group, Waipa District Council delegates, Waikato Tainui, Ngāti Hoa, Ngāti Kurigi Kakura, Community Board, and Bicycle Revolution, plus others. It's a really neat new connection between Te Awa Rise, where more houses are going to be developed, through to Cambridge Park and then into town. So it's another really great piece of infrastructure that will make it safer and easier for people to walk or cycle or scooter. Fortnightly meetings have still been continuing with Julie Dolan, who's our council community advisor, just to check in and see where we're at and understand where their priorities are as well. So it's a good line of communication. The Lukenwau Working Group meetings have been progressing really well, and absolutely concur with Gerda. There's an amazing, passionate group of people there. Attended the market, and some themes, some clear themes came out of that, just around process, leaves, levels of service, the other things. But just showing up and giving people an opportunity to engage with us is so valuable. I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I'm definitely going to continue going to those. Another update on the Christmas flags. They were getting a bit tatty down the main street. We've secured some more. They've been ordered, so they're going to be fresh for Christmas coming up. And then I was also contacted by a member of the community about the Cambridge Community Board Awards. So historically, there have been awards given out to the community, to members of the community who have done significant things in this town. I was trying to find out how that worked, and what the process was wrapped around it, and had a discussion with Mayor Mike about this morning around how we handle a nomination. So what I would like to do, and potentially we bring this back to our next meeting, is have a more formal process and criteria wrapped around that, but actually start to elevate these awards again and get them into a system, and start acknowledging these contributors, these really amazing people in our community who need to have a little bit more acknowledgement and be thanked. So I've got some ideas around that.
I'll bring that back. I think it's like cool to reinvigorate that and just maintain some positivity in this community. It's a good way for us to show leadership and encourage that as well. So that's pretty much me at the moment.
Just on a personal note, Charlotte won 2 really big awards in her professional life. So congratulations, Charlotte.
Yeah, that was nice. Thank you. So we don't need a resolution to wrap that up. So that means that we'll move on to the date of the next meeting, which will be held at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 18th of August, 2026. So we get to have a break next month, which is exciting. And with that, we will close with our karakia. All right, you can join in if you like. Ka tū ngā tahi tātou mō te hapori o te oko horoi, no tātou te honore, kia noho mai ki tēnei takiwā, kia rangatia te tū, kia haumaru te noho, kia atawhai te nākau. Together we stand for the Cambridge community. We give thanks for the honour to be part of it. Be honourable, be safe, be kind.